Hello and welcome again to the Counterman Education Center. I'm joined by Scott, who's going to answer another question for me. I had a customer ask me about bearing buddies. Please help.
Okay. Well, Jeff, bearing buddies are such a simple thing and everybody overlooks them, but they are so useful. When you have a trailer, whether it's a utility trailer or whether it's the worst, a boat trailer that's going to get dunked in the water, they all have grease. And we've talked before about what kind of bearings they have. So they need a special kind of grease, and they need that constant grease because the heat that develops in a trailer bearing is unbelievable. It gets so hot because it's such a small bearing and it's carrying a very, very large load. So it needs that grease. There's typically a seal in the back, and then there's a dust cap that goes on the front. So it's in theory a sealed environment, but over time you get dust in there and you get dirt and some of the grease seeps out and now you've got a dry bearing. Well, what the bearing buddy does is it replaces that dust cap on the outside, and it has a spring and a diaphragm, and on the end of that diaphragm is a grease zerk, so that you can constantly put grease, and the spring pushes the diaphragm against the grease, and the grease is then constantly pushed into that bearing. So you can think about it, that bearing is getting serviced constantly as it's being driven down the road, and you'll never end up with a dry bearing, because a dry metal on metal bearing will not last very long with the load and the temperatures that most trailers. It's a very simple install. Take off the dust cap, pound on the bearing buddy. And the other thing you need to sell them is what they call a bearing buddy cover. And that is a rubber boot that goes over the end of it so that none of the grease or dust gets into the bearing buddy itself. So there's another thing that you can remind your customer that they want when they're getting a set of bearing buddies installed.
Bearing buddies, simple but very important.
Very.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Thank you for watching the Counterman Education Center, and we'll see you next time.